everyone. This is Brian Schwartz from the Central Coast Writers Conference. This year is our 40th annual event on October 5th, 2024 at Cuesta College in San Luis Obispo. I'm very honored to have Leigh Rubin on with us to talk a little bit about the session he's going to be teaching called Connecting the Dots, as well as touch on the keynote, which he is tweaking specifically for the Writers Conference. And Leigh is a San Luis Obispo resident. He's kind of a legend in the sense that he is syndicated all over the country, all over the world. He's been doing cartoons for over 30 years. He was featured in Slow Life magazine recently. So, Leigh, I'll let you take it from here. Just share a little bit about who you are and what you're going to be talking about at the conference.
Okay, just one correction. It's 40 years.
40 years.
If we could take 10 years off my, not lifespan, but back up, that'd be cool though. I'd be totally down with that. Yeah, my name is Leigh Rubin. I draw a cartoon called Rubes, a syndicated cartoon that began in November of 1984. So we're coming up right on the 40th anniversary. The conference will just be a little bit shy of a month of that.
Wow.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for. And I have to say I've seen just great transformation in the last 40 years from print to digital. I've dealt with the ups and downs of the industry, as my wife likes to call it. It's the roller coaster. I love it.
I consider you a creativepreneur of the clearest, clear definition of a creativepreneur that I could imagine.
Well, I like that considering I'm working on a book on entrepreneurship right now.
Perfect.
So there you go. So
Yeah.
I'll tell that to my co-author on that. But what I'd like to focus on is, how I got my start, where one thing led other, when one dot connected to another. So believe it or not, the dot connecting goes besides the session and into the keynote. Just, who all the various people I've come across that have been helpful, really important, just trying to find new perspectives, new markets for your work. Workarounds, so important. I can't even tell you how important that is.
You have to be able to pivot
Constantly, you cannot rest. You must keep, and just how to stay fresh, dealing with deadlines, dealing with the whole business side of it, which I find pretty fascinating. One of the things I like to talk about, just a little bit, I'll touch on, are gatekeepers. Because back in the day, you would actually call people. It wasn't just done all with email or text or whatever, and you had to have some people skills. And I can't even stress how important that is. Still, I think it's like writing a thank you note the old-fashioned way. You're talking to a person here, and talking to the gatekeepers is really important because they're not going to let you in the kingdom if you're not.
Yeah, your tenacity is something I know you had, especially early on, that made a big difference.
Yeah, my wife used to say my gift was persistence, and I thought, what about the drawing part? but so but yeah, it's fun to figure out puzzles like that, how to go about something. Sometimes you just run into a brick wall and there is no way around it, and that's just the way it is. But we live in this great land of opportunity, so there are many ways to keep going. And I don't know if I mentioned that I'm going to talk about some of the reject letters, some of my early rejects, which are,
oh right, yes, I wanted you to share that.
Yeah, they're lots of fun because they're on real letterheads, from real people. And
like the Laszlo letters, that's what I think they reminded me of.
Oh, I just looked that up by Don Novello. Yeah, because I used to have that book. That was great. You'll have to bring that up at the conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and some of the kind folks that have given me a break. But once you get that break, you've got to maintain that level of professionalism, consistency, goodness. I don't know how to say it.
Right.
Um, just
Well,
the
yeah, quality in all aspects,
thank
integrity,
you. And
value, and
it,
all the
it's a
things. So let's talk about the connect the dots, illustrating to illuminate, and how authors specifically can maybe utilize their a new skill or develop a new skill of illustrations for their own work.
uh, so one of the techniques that I use to come up with ideas is dot connecting, and it's just taking two or more random dots and somehow connecting them together to form find something about them that is alike and see if I can turn that into something usable, funny. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it works. A lot of times it doesn't work. And you try and you try and you try. And so what I do is I go through some of those stories and some really bizarre little ones that have worked out well, some that just spring to mind immediately, but others that have taken a while to develop. And I'll give some examples of those. And what I really would love to do if folks want to bring their pencils with erasers or their tablets or whatever they draw on these days, it's open to all media, and give some prompts and do some on the spot creating, uh, which to me is super fun. You can't fail the class,
Mm.
and I've tried this with students a lot at the college that I work with, and they really love it. And I'm always amazed what they come up with. Um, yeah.
All right, learn by doing, and you'll have Leigh there to kind of guide you through one of his secrets to how he comes up with an idea every day. Because I talked about in the article where, there's something called an OBT, which is your one big thing. And if you look at all the things we have to do every day, the list is overwhelming and ever expanding. But there's one big thing that you got to do each day. And for Leigh, is to come up with a cartoon, because his cartoon is a daily. It's not a weekly. It's not a monthly. He has a daily cartoon that he has to come up with every single day. And to be persistent and be able to pull that off for 40 years is a remarkable feat in itself. So that's what Connect the Dots will be doing, is to help give you guys a little bit of the secret sauce that Leigh's been using. Now, the keynote that you're going to be doing at the end of the day, because you are a keynote speaker, tell us a little bit about what you plan to talk about in the art of creativity.
Well, that's sort of what I was talking about at the beginning, the
Okay.
persistence, plus the business side of it. I mean, I could touch on the new book, because that was a 4-year persistent project, which is
Mm-hmm.
Think Like a Cartoonist, which kind of gets behind the scenes of the creativity, not of me, but of the 45 contributors that also added to the project. And I just think creativity is all around us all the time. We all have this incredible ability to create. We all have, I mean, there's no governor on our imagination. It's all what we put on it. And so I like to really expand on that area a lot, because I mean, I when I ask someone, tell me a time you've created something, and they say they're not creative, I don't believe them, because how have you lived?
Yeah, you're creative just in brushing your teeth and getting dressed, right? And making your lunch for the day. You're telling me that creativity is integrated into every living moment, because we wouldn't be able to get through life without a level of creativity.
People are always figuring out little things. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
Right.
It's just a little trick here or there, or something, a little, again, a workaround. Um,
Well,
and
and taking on a project, I would say the Writers Conference has given me the opportunity to be creative in all sorts of new shape, in new ways, even doing these pre-conference kind of preview sessions, because we have these great tools available to us, Zoom and YouTube and everything. Like I love to embrace the technology, AI, to an extent, because it's a new creative paintbrush that I'm able to use to kind of come up with entirely new things that were not available or accessible to us just a few years ago.
no, I have yet to really use it. I mean, I tried a couple times, and it honestly, the cartoons weren't very funny.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. And they don't look like human. And yes, there's from the illustrations perspective, you can share a little bit about, I mean, it's coming, but there's definitely AI has a very strong signature right now, which isn't necessarily great. It's if you've seen the faces, you can immediately tell well, that's not a that's like an alien face.
Right.
It's missing a lot, but I'm just talking about like the coming up with idea generation and brainstorming and kind of having a sidekick there to kick ideas around, to change my perspective on things, change your point of view.
Sure.
There's a lot of interesting ways that I'm sure will come up during the conference because AI is going to be probably an aspect of every single session this year that authors are going to and attendees, creatives of all types, are going to be contending with or considering as they move forward. It's almost impossible to get on the internet anymore without AI somehow infiltrating your workflow at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just remember who thought up AI. People did.
Yes.
You just have to remember who's in control here, really, I hope.
Well, and I joke that we use AI to summarize and pull out the key points from like a podcast, but
yeah,
who initiated the podcast and who created the podcast? Like AI without input is pretty useless, right? You still have to provide it
sure.
With input from human beings that have ever-growing creative minds. So
us messy human beings with all of our ups and downs and in betweens. We actually have feelings.
So ideally, let's just come back to the workshop you'll be teaching in the morning. Who is your ideal attendee? Like in your mind, who would be the right person to come into your session?
Got any creatives coming here? I would say that's everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
I sprinkle in a lot of humor in this stuff. So if you like to laugh earlier in the morning and later in the afternoon, why not?
Yes.
But there's a point to it. I mean, I tried to get, there's a point to every cartoon. And every cartoon either will touch on some aspect of something that we are familiar with. In fact, that's one of the things I'll focus on. There's got to be a degree of familiarity. You don't want to go too far out or you're going to lose your audience.
Right.
Or you don't want to make it so easy so it's boring to your audience. There's the Goldilocks zone, which is just a perfect subject for lots of humor.
Well, I like that you don't take yourself too seriously. And yes, some of your stuff is off the wall. You can look at Rubes. What's your website? It's rubes.com.
Rubescartoons.com.
Rubescartoons.com and check out some of the kind of really on the edge of strange sometimes. I do see your stuff is like, but it just shows your mind and how the connecting the dots and some of your approaches to things manifest themselves into something that would have never existed in any other form.
Yeah, I just like to think of myself as a tour guide. Like I think people all see things the same way, but it's how you interpret them afterwards and what goes in and how it all comes out the other end. That's a weird way to say it, but you know what I mean. Hopefully it comes out a good way.
Well, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you on October 5th. Those of you who haven't registered yet, head over to centralcoastwritersconference.com. Now's the time to do it. We're going to be having an awesome day with creativity oozing and connecting with other creatives. Leigh will be there to answer questions, sign books, and share his insights of 40 years of creativity. So thanks, Leigh.
Thank you, Brian. I'm really looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing all of you who come on the 5th.
Thanks.